Good morning. Just got finished doing a sound check, and it was gibberish. It's a good thing I checked it. I sometimes get carried away answering emails and stuff like that, and I forget to do the sound check until the last minute. That's the second time, I think, in the past week that I did that. Anyway, for those of you that remember way back, sometimes my computer does gibberish when I hit Windows Movie Maker, Live Movie Maker, and it records gibberish. It happened a couple of times last year, and so ever since then I try to remember to do sound checks every day. And sometimes it's not gibberish, but sometimes it is. Anyway, today's title is Seeing and Dealing with Both World Realities. Yes, love is the answer to what ails us, individually and collectively. I'm not talking about some kind of sentimentality here when I say love. I'm talking about seeing things as they really are, both the positive and negative aspects. This seems to be difficult for many that I talk with about what is perceived to be happening. Most can only see the material world and hear only the propaganda of what is shown in the news. These are mostly either depressed people or they simply choose to ignore it all and drown out their feelings one way or another. My intention is to try to help us see both where we have been and are, as well as where we are headed. It's not either or, but both and here. Yesterday afternoon I got a call from a friend who had a death in the family and wanted to have supper with me last night. And so I had to make a decision on whether to do that or to go to the meeting that I was going to go to that was having a potluck. Anyway, I went to the meeting and congratulated them on taking a step forward. And then I went and met with my friend, and we had a 2-hour conversation in the restaurant about the situation of losing a loved one, and also, actually more so, what's perceived as going on in the world and the apprehension involved in the financial aspects, since the financial aspects now to this person are more acute than what they were previously, since his siblings are not in agreement with him on what needs to be done with the estate. So he has some personal decisions to make, and the world situation has an effect on those decisions. And so we talked about that at some length around the table in the restaurant yesterday evening. And I realized in that conversation how difficult it is for so many people who do. This person is a person that does pay attention to the news and does watch the mainstream media. You know, he quoted all the biggies, you know, CBS, NBC, ABC, you know, that's where he gets his news. And he sees the financial and economic collapse coming, and he sees all the problems in politics, and wanted to know if I had watched the Republican convention and what I thought about all the rhetoric there. And he does not, even though he is very much involved in certain levels of spirituality, he has trouble making sense of what I'm seeing as the vision of what I see happening, because he's not tuned in. He did talk about channeled messages, and some of the channeled messages that talk about earth changes and major cataclysm and catastrophe. And we got into the fact that from my point of view, those that talk about such things are the fear mongers. That's the timeline one. It's the old game plan. It's the old paradigm thinking of creating conflict and making people afraid. And I think we need to pay attention that these things are there. I'm not saying that we should hide our head in the sand, But by the same token, we need to recognize that there's another aspect going on here, and it's more difficult for us to see that because we have to look into the alternative media. And as I pointed out to him, even the alternative media has a lot of the fear propaganda. So you have to have discernment and understand the intent, or at least try to discern the intent behind some of the information that is being put forward. We have to perceive both world realities. We have to see this is what the world rulers, the would-be controllers of the entire planet, this is what they want you to believe. Their game plan has long been polarization. They have accomplished that through religion, through politics, through horrendous business practices and an economic system that only supports the very wealthy and does not support the average person. In fact, continues to rob again and again from the average person. These are things that we do need to be aware of, that this is the system that has been in place. This is the paradigm that has been operating in our world for a long time. The thing is, now people more and more are becoming aware that this is true, what I've just said, that the economic system and the business cycle and all of these other things that we've been told on mainstream media, and that the mainstream whores that sell their souls to lie for the elite, these people are trying to convince us that business cycles are a natural thing, that that the economic system is one of ups and downs and not one of stability. But that's a lie. That's something that is created for the purpose of making money, whether the cycle is in an upswing or a downswing. The same people that control the system make money both ways because they've created a system where they can bet what it's going to do and make money when it does what they bet, but they control what it's doing. You know, this is something that we have to become aware of. It is manipulated by people for a selfish intent, for greed, for power, for the attempt to control everybody else. We need to be aware. That is really what's happening in our world. It really is. It's been happening for a long time. We need to be aware of where we've been and where we are. But even more important, we need to understand the spiritual aspects that I keep trying to show people and to wake people up to the fact that we do live in a universe that does have meaning and does have purpose. It's not all accidental. It's not all just going on its own with no plan in sight. There are visionaries that have been trying to wake us up to the fact that there are alternative technologies that have been suppressed, that there are things happening in the spiritual world of consciousness, just awareness of other dimensional realities. And that includes angels and extraterrestrials and UFOs being involved in what's happening on our planet. The elite know that there's been UFOs and involvement of the extraterrestrials, and they have worked with some of those extraterrestrials for the benefit of the military-industrial complex. We need to know these things. We need to become aware of these and admit this is what's really happening, and not put our heads in the sand or try to bury it in behaviors that are habitual, of drowning it in alcohol or abuse of drugs. And that includes prescription drugs, not even just the illegal street variety. It includes just burying ourselves and trying to hide from the reality. Love is facing the truth and telling the truth. It's not about creating an airy-fairy world that sees everything through rose-colored glasses and never pays attention to what's really going on. But conversely, neither is it ignoring the airy-fairy so-called spiritual aspect and only paying attention to what the propaganda media is telling us. There has to be a balance, and I'm a Libra, so I'm going to try to strike a balance in what you see and what you perceive, and encourage you to pay attention to the spiritual and the material world. Pay attention to the propaganda, whether it's the propaganda that is trying to tell the truth or the propaganda that is trying to maintain the lie. Pay attention to both of them. Be an information junkie if you as much as you have time for. Pay attention to what's going on, and especially go into the alternative media and be willing to challenge yourself with viewpoints that are different than what you may want or what you may think is the only way. Be willing to stretch your limits and go outside the boundaries of your own comfort zone and look at alternative ways of seeing and find perhaps a resonance with something that is different than what you might have expected. This is so important because you are more, I am more, we all are more than what we've been told. We have abilities, intuitive abilities, that for the most part have been squashed. Our right brain thinking has been suppressed by a left brain culture of only seeing the physical and not being able to see the energy patterns beyond the physical. And the energy patterns are the spiritual aspects that are going on in our world. And we need to be able to come to grips with these elements that are also at work with a higher purpose. When we start seeing from that purpose, as I've often indicated, we recognize that the players playing the black side or the dark side actually, maybe even beyond their conscious awareness, are playing the game for the purpose of waking up people to reality, first of all, in the three dimensions, and to actually see the hypocrisy of our leaders and the lies of our establishment mentors, if you will, to see the gross deception that is taking place there, and to understand it as that, to say, I'm not going to believe this anymore. It doesn't resonate. You've got faculties within your being that are awakening, that the extraterrestrial influence, if you will, the cosmic influence, is affecting your DNA and your receptivity and your receptive abilities to perceive things on higher levels. This is happening. And rather than trying to suppress and hide it, I'm encouraging you to go into it and to spend time meditating and paying attention in quiet moments to what your heart is telling you. Because the heart is the instrument of love. The heart is where we bring the lower energies and the higher energies into union, and we get a chance to let them do their little dance in the middle of our being, and we develop higher skills of discernment and intuitive senses that show us the bigger picture, so that we can put what's happening in our world into a perspective where we see that even what seems to be bad is ultimately good. And if we do this, the more we do this, the more of us that do this, we lessen the probability of the need to have cataclysmic events and earth-shattering changes take place on the surface of our planet, so that we can develop the higher aspects of what the possibilities are, and we can delve into those possibilities of creating new systems and of bringing the vision that is present in our world right now, but that many don't see because the news media doesn't report on it. We can bring this into a place where we can start dealing with things in a different manner and creating solutions rather than just being afraid and trying to run away from the problems. We're getting so caught up in our own apprehension and fear that we don't know what to do, and we're beside ourselves because our own individual worlds seem to be collapsing, because our own relationships are falling apart, or our health issues are challenging us to the extreme, or we're losing family members to death, they're crossing over. Whatever these things are that are happening in our lives are here for our awakening, and I'm trying my very best to get you to focus and to see so that together we can co-create a reality that works for all of us. And that's what love really is. Love is creating win-win situations out of what sometimes seems like situations of despair. But we don't have to give up hope. We don't have to give up faith. We don't have to give up possibility thinking. In fact, we need that more than ever as we move into the higher frequencies of earth changes that shatter not the physical earth, but shatter the world systems that have not worked for the benefit of mankind. This has the potential of changing dramatically in the weeks and months ahead. And I ask you to put your focus on there. See and deal with both world realities, because it's important to do that. Thank you for listening once again to the Talking Head as I share how I see the world. Namaste. Bless you.